To what extent do you believe that in an enlightened democratic society, the citizenry should be bound by any type of financial and social commitment to support the greater good of all Americans?
I think I understand what you mean, what you're asking. If I want to give all of my money to the less fortunate, and I'm saying this, when I say all my money, I'm talking universal, everybody, this goes for everybody. If anyone wants to give all their money to the less fortunate, that's fine. It's charity, it's noble, and it's a good thing. If the government takes my money to give it to somebody else, that's theft. Does that answer your question? Because that's how I feel about it. For them to do that without my consent. This is a government. We are be governed by the consent of the governed. And these guys are going to take my money without even asking me, just by virtue of their power? No.
So take the government out of it for a sec. I mean, the government would be one way to interpret that question. And as you say, each person could do whatever they wanted with their own money.
Absolutely, and they used to do it.
Is there a societal commitment that we do together in any sort of way?
Americans are the most generous people in the world and have been for I don't know how long. No, see, if there's a
by total
tragedy,
dollars, but not percentage of wealth. I believe that's the right way to say that. So Americans might give the greatest total cash to charitable causes every year. But if you were looking at your percentage of your paycheck, we would not be the most.
Who does?
Sweden.
Sweden. Okay. Well, you know what? I don't know. Is that significant? Is the percentage in this case more significant than the amount? Ask those people in Indonesia when that tsunami hit. Who was the first one there?
And I'm sorry, I just went off the reservation too because I wouldn't get back and forth.
Well, no, it's okay. No, it's okay. I like that. This is. I wish there was more of that with the press and politicians. And I hate to use that word. God, I'm not a politician. Some guy
elected, you would be.
No, I wouldn't. Some guy asked me that someplace. He said, "Well, you seem to be dislike politicians. Now you're one. What do you think about it now?" And I said, first of all, don't hang that on me. I'm not a politician. I will run for one term, period. And if I don't, if I ever show any inclination that I'm going to go past one term, I hope somebody assassinates me. No. First word my wife said when I told her I was going to do this, she said, "I'm not moving to Washington, D.C." I said, "Okay, fine."
This will dovetail perfectly into the last question, which is, how would you assess today's political culture in D.C., and how could you be a productive representative of Missouri within that framework?
This is a concern. My oldest friend, I sent everybody I knew. They told me to send everybody I knew a letter. Then make a list of all the people I've ever known in my life, send them a letter and ask them for money. I mean, money's the lifeblood of politics, right? So I sent a letter to one of my oldest friends, and the day he got the letter, he calls me back, and he says, I said, I'm assuming you're calling me because the check's in the mail. He says, "No, I'm calling you to tell you that I will never give you a red cent. I will not see you go to that city and become what they are." And I said, "Well, okay, I understand your point of view." He said, "I will not lend a hand for that because I know you and I don't want to see you get corrupted by that." He says, I said, "Well, what if, maybe I'm immune. Maybe I can withstand it for 6 years." And he says, "Well, maybe you can and maybe you can't. We'll have to see." But he says, "I'm not going to help you find out." So I think that anybody who goes there, even with the noblest intention, and I don't want to blanket all of these guys. I don't want to. There are people, I'm sure, who are trying to do their best and trying to do the best for their constituency and trying to do the best for America. But there are so many of them who have turned into just these incredible, arrogant. Chuck Schumer was on an airplane. You probably remember this incident. It was a few weeks ago. He was on an airplane talking on his cell phone or coming in for a landing. The pilot gets on, he says, I have to turn off your cell phones. Okay, everybody knows that. He doesn't get off his cell phone. The stewardess walks up to him and says, sir, I'm sorry, you have to. She went up to him twice. The second time she went up to him, he looks at her and he says, the first words out of his mouth, do you know who I am? And I'm thinking, this is, what in the world? What in the world has gotten into these people? But they are our servants. They work for us. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. That's my understanding of it. That's what I was taught in government class in high school. They work for us. They are public servants. And they have gotten away from that, man. They have become celebrities. No offense to you, I don't have any idea what kind of media person you are, but the media has done this. They have made them TV stars, and certainly at the national level, and to an extent at lower levels. But yeah, these guys, they ride around in limousines. They call a restaurant. They get a reservation like that, even if they're full. It's no problem. They get first class treatment wherever they go, and I'm telling you, they're going to fight to keep that. It doesn't matter to them, the D's and the R's anyway. It doesn't matter to them who's in the majority or who's in the minority. As long as the money keeps rolling in for their re-elections and they keep those jobs, well, they're happy. They're content with the status quo. And that's got to be broken. And this is one of the reasons that I'm running. Maybe the biggest reason I'm running. I've got to get them out of there.
And this is the last part of that question, which again dovetails what you're saying. How will you measure your own success?
At this point, I would have to say, if I can just displace one of them, if I could just get rid of one of those thugs, get that seat in there, I am a big believer that for the last, at least the last 100 years, we'd all be better off if they were having some giant pinochle tournament instead of passing any kind of legislation. I had a lady call me, did an interview over the phone for a radio station in Columbia. And the first question she asked me was, what would you do about gridlock? And I said, I like gridlock. And she laughed. She thought I was making a joke. I said, no. I said, I really do like gridlock. When they're in gridlock, they're not bothering us. They're not making any new laws. They're not making any new regulations. They're not creating any new bureaucracies and tax. I said, leave us alone. Just let the states handle it. Let the local communities handle their government. The original governmental body was the family. It had a leader. It had its own little pecking order, and it worked. And as communities got larger, the government had to get a little bit larger. But it reached a point where it's gotten, now we work for them, and it's not right.